You never know who's watching you while you work. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness can change your entire life. She was just a quiet waitress in a small-town diner. But one afternoon, she spoke words no one expected, and everything changed forever. The afternoon sun stretched lazily across the narrow streets of Milford, a quiet southern town where life moved slower than the ticking clock in the diner. Inside Hazel's home kitchen, the smell of baked cornbread and roasted coffee filled the air. Old men sat near the windows reading newspapers. The sound of forks clinking against plates created a steady rhythm. At one corner, a young black woman in a faded beige uniform wiped tables carefully. Her name tag read Tiana Brooks. She was 24, shy, and always quiet enough to blend into the background. Tiana had been working there for 2 years. Her mother used to say, "There's pride in honest work, baby. Don't ever let nobody make you feel small for doing what feeds you." Those words carried her through long, tiring shifts. She lived in a small rented apartment at the edge of town. Her father had passed when she was 10, and her mother, a seamstress, had raised her alone. Life was never easy, but Tiana learned to carry her pain with grace. Most customers barely noticed her beyond the polite smile and soft good morning. But those who looked closely saw something deep behind her quiet eyes. A mind always observing, a heart that listened. As she refilled coffee cups, old Mr. Jenkins grinned at her. "Girl, one day you're gonna own a place like this," he said. Tiana smiled politely. "I don't know about that, sir. I just try to make it through each shift." Her coworkers liked her but teased her for being too quiet. "You gotta speak up, Tiana," her friend Carla said once. "Ain't no one gonna notice you if you keep whispering like a mouse." Tiana just laughed softly. "That's okay. I'm not trying to be noticed." But deep down, there was a world inside her, a love for books, for learning, for people's stories. She had learned sign language from her late mother, who used to teach special needs children, sometimes during slow hours. Tiana would stand near the kitchen door, practicing her signing in the air, her fingers moving gently like a silent dance. No one knew she could do it. It was her private connection to her mother's memory. That day, as the sun dipped lower, the diner prepared for its afternoon rush. Tiana polished glasses while the radio played soft blues. Carla joked about the big money folks rumored to be visiting from out of town. "Probably those rich people from Atlanta," she said. "They always think small-town food tastes more authentic." Tiana smiled faintly. Maybe they'll like the pie. At 1:45 p.m., a sleek black Mercedes pulled up outside. The engine hummed quietly before stopping. The door opened and a tall white man stepped out. He wore a navy blue suit, clean, tailored, expensive. His watch gleamed under the sunlight. From the passenger side, an older woman stepped out slowly, gray-haired, with gentle eyes and a hearing aid. The man held her hand with care. "You okay, Mom?" he asked. She nodded and smiled warmly, but said nothing. Inside, heads turned. People weren't used to seeing strangers like that in Milford. The man's presence alone made the diner suddenly quiet. He led his mother to a corner booth near the window. Tiana, who had just finished clearing a table, noticed them. Carla whispered, "That's gotta be one of them rich city folks." Tiana nodded quietly and took her notepad. "I'll take their order." As she approached the table, her hands trembled slightly. The man looked up and smiled politely. "Good afternoon," Tiana said softly. "Welcome to Hazel's. Can I start you off with something to drink?" The older woman looked at her, but didn't respond. The man leaned slightly closer to explain, "My mother can't hear you. She's been deaf since her 20s. Tiana's eyes softened. She nodded gently, then placed her notepad down and began signing. "Welcome to Hazel's. What would you like to drink?" The older woman's eyes widened. Her face lit up in pure surprise. Her hands moved quickly in return, signing back with excitement. You know how to sign? That's wonderful. The man froze, watching in disbelief as his mother and the shy waitress exchanged signs fluently. The two laughed silently as the woman signed about how beautiful the diner was and how good it smelled. Other customers began to notice. Carla whispered from behind the counter, "Is Tiana talking with her hands?" The cook leaned out from the kitchen, stunned. Never seen that before. The millionaire smiled slowly, his curiosity turning into admiration. "You know Acel?" asked. Tiana nodded. "My mom used to teach deaf students. She taught me when I was little." His mother touched Tiana's hand gratefully, her eyes shining. "You made my day," she sighed. Tiana smiled softly and replied with her hands, "You made mine too," for the first time. The quiet girl was the center of attention, not for making a mistake, but for doing something beautiful. After the initial shock settled, Tiana brought them water and took their orders, continuing to sign with the older woman as if they had known each other for years. Laughter, though silent, filled the corner of the diner. The man watched closely. His mother hadn't smiled this much in months. He leaned forward, fascinated. "I've taken her to the best restaurants in Atlanta," he said quietly, "but she always feels left out. No one ever tries to talk to her. You just made her feel seen." Tiana felt her heart warm. "She reminds me of my mom. I'm glad she's happy." When she walked back to the counter, Carla raised her brows. "Girl, what was that? Since when do you speak hand language?" Tiana laughed softly. "Since forever. Just never needed to use it here." As she served their food, chicken pot pie and cornbread, the millionaire kept watching her, not in a way that made her uncomfortable, but with deep curiosity, like he was trying to figure out who she really was. The older woman gestured toward Tiana before eating and signed, "She has a kind soul." Her son nodded, replying aloud, "Yes, she does." After their meal, Tiana brought the check. The man reached into his wallet and placed a folded $100 bill on the tray. "That's way too much," Tiana said quickly. The meal was only $32. He smiled faintly. "It's not about the food. It's for the kindness you showed my mother." Tiana hesitated, but finally thanked him politely. As they prepared to leave, the older woman held Tiana's hands tightly and signed, "Keep shining. You have a gift. Use it." Tiana smiled, blinking back emotion. "I will try," she signed back. When they left, the diner buzzed with quiet whispers. Everyone had seen it. The girl who never talked much had somehow connected with someone no one else could reach. That evening, after closing, Tiana sat by the window, watching the lights flicker outside. Something inside her felt different. For once, she didn't feel invisible. She didn't know it yet, but that small moment of kindness was about to change her entire life. 2 days passed quietly in Milford. The usual morning crowd came and went. Tiana worked her shifts, wiped tables, and carried the same soft smile she always did. But her thoughts kept drifting back to that moment. The old woman's warm hands. The way her eyes sparkled when she realized someone understood her. She didn't expect to see them again. But on the third afternoon, around 2 p.m., a familiar black Mercedes rolled into the diner parking lot. Carla nudged Tiana with her elbow. "Your rich friend is back," she whispered with a grin. Tiana looked up and saw the man step out of his car alone this time. He walked with purpose, looking around until his eyes found her. There was something friendly, yet serious, in his expression. He took a seat in her section at the same corner booth. Tiana approached quietly. "Welcome back," she said. "Your mother not with you today?" He smiled gently. "Not today. She's resting. I just wanted to thank you again for the way you treated her." "You don't have to thank me," Tiana said. "It was nothing." "It was everything," he replied. My name's Ryan Cole." "Tiana Brooks," she said softly. Ryan looked around the small diner. "You like it here?" She shrugged. "It's a job. Pays the bills." He nodded thoughtfully. "You ever think about doing something different?" Tiana hesitated. "I wouldn't even know where to start." Ryan smiled slightly. "You started by learning a whole language just to communicate with people most of the world ignores. That's something." Tiana blushed a little and tried to change the subject. "What can I get you today?" "Same as last time," he said. "And maybe a piece of that pie you mentioned." As she served him, they talked more. He told her he owned several hospitality businesses across the state and was visiting Milford to scout for new investment opportunities. She listened quietly, fascinated by his confidence and the calm way he spoke. When she asked if his mother was doing well, Ryan smiled. "She keeps talking about you." Said she hasn't met anyone so genuine in a long time. That evening, as the sun turned the sky orange, Ryan stood at the counter before leaving. "Tiana," he said, "I have an idea. My company's opening a new training center in Atlanta for hospitality management. We teach communication skills, sign language, and customer service excellence. You'd be perfect there." Tiana froze. "Me? I don't think I could." "You can," he said gently. "Think about it. You already have what can't be taught: empathy." He handed her a business card before walking out. She looked at it for a long time after he left, her heart pounding, for the first time in years. She felt the world was offering her something bigger than survival. Tiana couldn't sleep that night. The white card sat on her nightstand, glowing faintly in the light from the street outside. It had Ryan's name, number, and the name of his company, Cole Hospitality Group. She read the words over and over, wondering if it was real. Could someone like her, a quiet small-town waitress, really have a place in a world like his? Her mother's old photo sat on the shelf beside her bed. "What would you do, Mama?" she whispered. "Would you take the chance?" The next morning, she walked to work early, the cool air brushing against her face. Inside the diner, everything looked the same: the smell of coffee, the hum of the refrigerator, the chatter of regulars. But Tiana felt different. At her break, she pulled Carla aside. "Carla, remember that man who came in with his mother? The rich one? Hard to forget. He offered me a spot in some training program in Atlanta." Carla's eyes widened. "Girl, are you serious? That's big. I don't even know if I can do it. I've never been anywhere else. What if I fail?" Carla smiled. "What if you don't?" That question stayed with her all day. After her shift, she walked to the park and sat on a bench. Kids played in the distance. The world felt wide and unpredictable. She thought about her mother again, how she used to encourage her to dream bigger. When she finally took out her phone and called the number on the card, her hands were shaking. "Mr. Cole, this is Tiana." His voice came through warm and calm. "I was hoping you'd call. I've been thinking about your offer," she said. "I'd like to know more." "Good," Ryan replied. "We're holding orientation next Monday in Atlanta. Transportation and lodging will be covered. You'll learn, train, and maybe even teach one day." Tiana's throat tightened. "Thank you. I'll be there." After hanging up, she sat in silence for a long moment. For once, the fear in her chest didn't stop her. It pushed her forward. The bus ride to Atlanta felt like a passage between two worlds. As the gray ribbon of highway stretched endlessly ahead, Tiana leaned against the window, watching trees blur into shades of green and gold. Every mile took her farther from the life she had known. When the skyline finally appeared, she couldn't help but gasp. Atlanta gleamed in the sunlight, glass towers rising like promises, the sound of life echoing from every direction. A driver from Cole Hospitality met her at the station and led her to a dormitory near the company's new training center. It was clean, bright, and modern, wide hallways, polished floors, and cheerful staff who greeted her with polite smiles. Inside her small but cozy room, she placed her single suitcase on the bed. A note lay on the desk. "Welcome to Cole's Hospitality Training Center. Believe in yourself, you're here for a reason." She smiled faintly. The first morning was a whirlwind. 20 trainees from different states filled the classroom, confident, well-dressed, and brimming with energy. Tiana sat near the back, quietly observing. When the instructor asked everyone to introduce themselves, she hesitated before standing. "My name is Tiana Brooks," she said softly. "I worked as a waitress in Milford, a small town. I'm here to learn how to communicate better with everyone, including guests who can't hear." The room went silent for a heartbeat. Then the instructor smiled. "That's the best reason I've heard all morning." Later that day, the trainees were divided into groups for a communication challenge. One member was blindfolded, another had to act deaf. When it was Tiana's turn, she gracefully began signing to her deaf guest, her hands moving like poetry, her expression kind and patient. The others watched in quiet awe. After the exercise, one of the trainers whispered, "She's a natural." That evening, Ryan visited the center. He spotted Tiana in the hallway and walked over with his familiar, calm smile. "How was your first day?" "Overwhelming," she admitted. "But good." "I watched your exercise," he said. "You handled it beautifully." She blushed. "I just wanted them to feel comfortable." Ryan nodded. "That's real hospitality, not about luxury, but connection." Tiana whispered, "Mama, I'm really doing it." 3 weeks passed quickly. Tiana grew more confident each day. She learned about guest relations, leadership, and emotional intelligence. Her natural kindness made her stand out, even among well-educated trainees. But success never comes without tests. One afternoon, during a lunch training shift, a mock scenario was organized where the trainees had to serve difficult guests. The goal was to test patience and communication under pressure. Tiana was assigned to a table where 2 evaluators acted as wealthy, impatient customers. They snapped fingers, made complaints, and changed their orders repeatedly. Around her, other trainees began losing composure, their voices rising slightly. Tiana stayed calm. She kept smiling, listening, and noting every request carefully. When one evaluator said, "This food is cold," she didn't defend herself. She simply replied, "I understand. Let me bring you something warmer right away." Her calm tone shifted the whole mood. The evaluators exchanged looks, then nodded approvingly. At the end of the session, the lead instructor gathered everyone. "There's a reason we push you," she said. "In hospitality, it's not just about service. It's about humanity." Ryan entered the room during the announcement. He had been quietly observing the whole time. "And some people," he added, "remind us that empathy can't be taught. You either have it or you don't." His eyes met Tiana's briefly. That night, Tiana received a note slipped under her door. It was from Ryan's assistant. "Mr. Cole requests your presence tomorrow at 4 p.m. in the executive office." Tiana stared at the note for a long time. Her stomach turned with nervousness. Had she done something wrong? Or was this about something else entirely? The next day, Tiana walked into the tall glass building that housed the executive offices. Everything looked polished and professional. She took a deep breath before knocking on the door marked Ryan Cole, CEO. "Come in," his voice called. He stood by the window, looking out at the skyline. When he turned around, he smiled warmly. "Tiana, please, sit." She sat down, hands folded nervously. "Sir, I hope I didn't do anything wrong." Ryan chuckled softly. "Not at all. Quite the opposite. You've done exceptionally well." The trainers can't stop talking about your attitude and communication. Her shoulders relaxed slightly. Thank you, sir. He leaned forward. I wanted to ask you something personal. You mentioned your mother used to teach deaf students. Is that what inspired you to learn sign language? Tiana nodded. Yes, she used to say that silence isn't empty. It's full of things people don't hear because they don't try to listen. After she passed, I kept practicing so I wouldn't forget. Ryan listened quietly, impressed by the depth of her words. I've been planning to launch a community outreach program for our company, he said. A project that connects our hotels with local organizations, serving the deaf and disabled. I'd like you to lead it. Tiana blinked. Me? Yes. You design guest communication training, workshops and awareness programs. It's a leadership role, and I believe you're ready. Her voice trembled slightly. I don't know what to say. Say yes, he said gently. She smiled slowly. Then yes. Ryan extended his hand. Welcome aboard, Director of Community Engagement. As she shook his hand, she felt something shift inside her. The shy girl who once doubted herself was becoming someone new, confident, capable, and respected. 6 months later, Tiana had become one of the most respected members of Ryan's team. She traveled across states, leading workshops and inspiring others. Her warmth was contagious. People listened when she spoke. But true success never comes without resistance. At a hospitality conference in Chicago, she stood before a room full of investors and executives, presenting her community inclusion program. Her presentation focused on empathy, teaching hotel staff to communicate effectively with guests with disabilities. Halfway through, a sharp-voiced investor interrupted. This all sounds nice, he said, but how does this help our bottom line? For a moment, the air froze. Tiana looked at him calmly, though her pulse raced. Sir, empathy isn't just good ethics. It's good business. When people feel understood, they return. When employees feel valued, they stay. Connection builds loyalty, and loyalty builds profit. Silence hung heavy. Then the room erupted in applause. Ryan, watching from the back, couldn't hide his pride. Later that evening, over dinner, he smiled at her. You handled that better than any executive I've met. Tiana chuckled softly. I just spoke from my heart. 2 weeks later, life tested her again. Ryan's mother fell gravely ill. He called her one morning, his voice low. She keeps asking for you. Would you come? Tiana didn't hesitate. She boarded the earliest train back to Atlanta. At the hospital, Ryan's mother looked frail but peaceful. Her hands trembled slightly as she signed, You came. Tiana took her hand, eyes glistening. Of course, I missed you. Ryan stood near the bed, silent, watching them communicate in the quiet language that had once brought them together. The old woman smiled weakly and signed toward her son. You chose well. She understands people. Ryan's throat tightened. He looked at Tiana, gratitude in his eyes. In that sterile white room, surrounded by machines and silence, something sacred passed between them, a sense of family, of shared purpose. A few months later, Ryan's company held its annual gala, attended by top executives, partners, and media. It was a celebration of progress and innovation. To Tiana's surprise, Ryan asked her to come as a guest of honor. As she walked into the elegant ballroom in a simple navy dress, the same quiet girl who once cleaned tables in Milford now stood among powerful people. She felt nervous but proud. When Ryan took the stage, he began his speech. Every company has moments that define its purpose. For us, that moment came not from a boardroom, but from a small diner in Milford. A young waitress showed us that communication is not about words. It's about connection. He turned toward Tiana. Tonight, we honor Miss Tiana Brooks for reminding us that kindness can change everything. The crowd applauded as Tiana stood, tears filling her eyes. She never imagined this kind of life. Months later, Tiana visited Milford again. The diner looked the same. The squeaky door, the smell of fresh coffee, and the familiar faces of her old coworkers. Carla screamed when she saw her. "Girl, look at you. You look like a whole new person." Tiana laughed. "Still the same me. Just got a different name tag now." She sat at her old table, looking around with quiet nostalgia. The place that once felt small now felt sacred. It was where everything began. Ryan and his mother joined her later that afternoon. The old woman hugged Tiana tightly. The three of them shared lunch just like that first day, except this time, people didn't stare. They smiled. Before leaving, Ryan handed her a sealed envelope. Inside was a letter from his mother, written with the help of a translator. "Tiana, thank you for speaking to me when the world was silent. Because of you, my son learned what it truly means to listen." Tiana pressed the letter to her chest, tears streaming down her face. As the sun set over the quiet streets of Milford, she stood outside the diner and took a deep breath. The air smelled of baked bread and new beginnings. She whispered softly, "Mama, I made it." And for the first time in her life, she didn't feel invisible. She felt seen, heard, and whole. Your turn. What's the life lesson you're walking away with? Tell us in the comments. Like and subscribe the channel for more interesting videos.